What is up, guys? It's Steve. Today we're talking about synthetic or forced evolution in science fiction. We're covering the books The Games, EXO, and All Tomorrows. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get right into it. So, evolution in science fiction. Usually when it's portrayed, it's seen as the kind of final form of technology for any given civilization. Be it advanced humans, advanced aliens. For advanced species, this is the final straw. We see this in the games, with Silas creating his gladiators as these freaks of nature because humanity hasn't quite gotten genetic manipulation yet. We see it with the Zri coming in EXO to create the Exos on Earth. They've been doing this a long time. And with the Q creating the post-humans as an advanced race. And we see in a lot of these books that this kind of genetic manipulation always kind of leads to ruin. So in the games, we see the gladiator kills the Brandon computer, its trainer, and eventually the man who raised it. In EXO, we see Sapiens' leader's son being hardened is what led to its very founding. And the post-human alliance killing the Q in All Tomorrows. I know it doesn't mean a lot to you right now. We got brief synopses coming up later in the video, so don't worry about that. Now, I'm going to get right into the first topic, looking at the gladiator from the games, and its creation. So just a brief summary of the text, just from important context. The Gladiator event is a new Olympic game where every country creates a beast to fight, with the only rule being no human DNA. And historically, this has been done in the US by a man named Silas. But this year, the Olympic Commission has used a new supercomputer to design their gladiator, which is all well and good. But it turns out that the only instruction the computer was given was to make a gladiator that can survive the competition, which, as we'll see later on, led to horrific results. The computer created essentially the perfect life form that can survive anything as its own Machiavellian way to remake the world in its own image. I'm going to be relating this a bit to a short story called Into Your Hands. In this story, genetically modified bees that have been made to filter petrochemicals in the future. And obviously we can see the immediate connection here. These bees were made for a very specific convenience for humans, and the gladiator was made for a similar purpose. Both of them were intended for kind of a very specific small scope goal, but both of them broke free and chose to live on their own terms. The bees in Into Your Hands eventually become wild and evolve to lay their eggs in petrochemicals, and they destroy several large processing plants. So both of these things, you can see the gladiator in the sense that the learnings about chemical and biological engineering would hopefully help, human industry, human health, these sorts of things. And both of these use their children specifically, which is interesting. The bees obviously clogging the petrochemicals with their eggs, and the gladiator, being perfect, it can create children to do anything. So both of these are showing that kind of messing with these things and not accounting for natural evolution happening will always lead to disaster. It's never going to go well, because humans just can't handle going up against evolution in such a direct way. Next thing I'm going to be talking about is EXO, and making bigger and better humans from the bigger and better species. So, just some quick context for this book. The Zri are an advanced race that came to Earth and declared it a colony, basically. They annexed humanity and took over the planet. And what's interesting here is that their hardening technology, which they use after their young have hatched to kind of make them ready for the world, it's compatible with human biology. Fighters and law enforcement have been upgraded to be able to use this hardening technology to give them an exoskeleton, hence the name Exos. Our main character, Donovan, is the son of Prime Liaison for Earth, so the head of the Earth government, and the son of the leader of Sapiens, an Earth supremacist group who would like to have the Zri off of the planet, and he naturally has undergone hardening for his police work. I'm going to talk about a little bit how this relates to a kind of Malthusian euthanasia theory, which was a belief in Victorian times that kind of undesirables from society, such as the poor, the disabled, these people should be culled somewhat, be given euthanasia to purify them, the thought being that it will help those who remain to make them no longer a burden. Obviously, this is an insane thing to think, but Sapiens in EXO sees the Zri and the Exos as these undesirables. They are not human. They're attempting to eradicate humans, and they believe that they should be purified, culled, sort of. And we can see that by creating the Exos, the Zri have taken these normal humans, who otherwise would not have been culled, and they have kind of made them a target. And we can see even more of this, because some sapiens extremists even delight in killing Exos, keeping parts of their armor as kind of trophies. Now, it's not clear if they actually believe this, or if they're just saying it as a threat, because the only time they say it is in private to Donovan, right before they want to kill him. So we can see kind of this way that this genetic engineering, it has worked well for them in their own species, but they've overstepped the bounds just a little bit, and we've seen how that's come back to kind of bite them. And finally, I'd like to talk about the Q from All Tomorrows. A little summary of that is that humanity had already been experimenting with their own evolution, and it had nearly torn them apart as a species. So they have decided at this point in the story to no longer alter themselves and to live as humans, until the Q find them. The Q have mastered the art of bioengineering, and they can create any life form in any shape for any reason. The Q obviously defeat humanity and remake them into myriad forms, which are then abandoned, and some of them re-advance to conquer their worlds. Now, eventually, one sect of these new humans, the Gravital, decide to destroy the other post-humans, and remake them again into servants, the same way the Q had, abandoning their own flesh bodies for the machine. And we can see that this works out very poorly, because another sect, angered by this, fully lobotomizes them and turns them into slaves, and thusly brings that vengeance to them more directly. Then, obviously, the Q are defeated much later on in the story, and we can see this as kind of having a misunderstanding of these evolutionary mechanics is not going to help. The Q are stated in the book to have a kind of divine imperative for their genetic modification, and have variated lots of other species before. They go around to other planets, and they variate species. This divine inspiration could have roots in a bad understanding of evolution, and having much more importance placed on variation rather than natural selection. The hedonist species that the Q create are a perfect example of this. They are created with no self-defense mechanism. They drink a bacterial soup as their only meal, and as soon as the Q leave, a lot of them die, and they start to have to desperately evolve to cling to life. Also, this unnatural speciation has kind of given these planetary species...
What is up, guys? It's Steve.
Today we're talking about synthetic or forced evolution in science fiction. Covering the books,
so we can see
the games,
fracturing of
Exo,
has actually only increased its
Tomorrows,
power,
I think it's gonna be a lot
and
of
has
fun
led
to get
directly
into
to the Q's destruction.
So yeah,
evolution
this is my
in
take
science
on
fiction.
forced evolution.
Usually when it's
in
portrayed, it
sci-fi,
seems
as
the
the
kind
kind
of
of
final
form
form
of technology for any given civilization. Be it advanced humans, advanced aliens,